Hi, I'm Karen, and this is my Week 9 NFL picks. It was kind of a rough week last week, a lot of upsets, and it was kind of a crazy week of football. So maybe we'll have a better week this week. So let's get right to the picks. First game we're going to talk about is the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills. Now, the New York Jets had a bye week this past week. But in week 7, they won 27-21 over the Chargers. Now, Mark Sanchez had 173 passing yards. They did have, and he had 3 touchdowns. They did have 8 penalties for 60 yards, 1 fumble, and they made 2 interceptions. Now, basically, in my opinion, the Chargers basically just handed this game over to the New York Jets. It was kind of a ugly game, I would say. Now, the Buffalo Bills, they won 23-0 over the Redskins. Now, Fitzpatrick had 262 passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 35 yards. He was sacked 2 times, and they had 1 fumble, and he threw 1 interception. They made 9 sacks and 2 interceptions. Now, Fred Jackson, he was the first Bill to surpass 1,000 rushing yards by 7 games in a season. So the Buffalo Bills, they're getting their momentum back. So I am going to pick the Buffalo Bills to win that game. I think they're going to have enough momentum to take the Jets on. Now, and the Jets are 4-3, the Bills are 5-2, so we're going to see. Now, the next game we're going to talk about is the Seattle Seahawks and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Seattle Seahawks last week lost 12-34 to the Bengals. Jackson had 323 passing yards. Whitehurst had 52 passing yards. There was 11 penalties for 80 yards, 1 fumble, and there were 4 sacks. Now, Seahawks, they are 2-5. They are not having a very good season. Now, the 3-4 Dallas Cowboys, they lost 7-34 to the Eagles. Tony Romo had 203 passing yards. They had 3 penalties for 22 yards. That was just a very ugly game. The Eagles just ran all over the Cowboys. It was just not pretty. Very shocking game. The Cowboys just couldn't do anything there. But I think the Cowboys are going to redeem themselves, and I think they're going to win. Now the game I just don't even want to talk about. The Atlanta Falcons and my Indianapolis Colts. We all know how much I just adore Peyton Manning. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, they had a bye week, and in week 7, they won 23-16 over the Detroit Lions. And, excuse me. Sorry to have a break. I had to bring my little friend up here. This is my little Giants fan, Cuddles. But get back to my show here. The Atlanta Falcons, they won 23-16 over the Lions. Ryan had 218 passing yards, 11 penalties for 80 yards, sacked 3 times. He threw 2 interceptions, had no fumbles. Now, there was a little controversy about the Lions trash talking when Matt Ryan, hurt his ankle. But the Falcons, they are 4-3. They are doing very well. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, they are 0-8. They just can't seem to get anything going without Peyton Manning. Curtis Painter, they lost 10-27 to the Titans. Curtis Painter had 250 passing yards. They had 10 penalties for 66 yards, no fumbles. They did have a block punt in the end zone and all this stuff, you know. But now they are playing at home. They are playing in Indy. And they are eventually going to win a game. I can't see them being winless, you know, without winning anything. Now, my honest opinion, the Falcons are going to win. I'm picking the Colts on all my personal picks because they are going to win, and when they do win, I am going to have that win right. But Falcons are probably going to win, but I'm hoping the Colts are going to win. I'm going to keep rooting for my Colts here. Now, Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. Miami Dolphins are 0-7. They're also another winless team. They lost 17-20 to the Giants. My team, the Giants, my other team. As you can tell, I'm a Manning fan. Moore had 138 passing yards. They had 4 penalties for 30 yards. Moore threw 1 interception. He was sacked 5 times. No fumbles. They just couldn't get anything going. They couldn't pull out the win, I should say. They got things going. They had 17 yards. It was a close game, but they just couldn't. They couldn't get the win because they were playing against the Giants there. But now the Kansas City Chiefs, they won 23-20 over the Chargers in overtime. Now Matt Castle had 261 passing yards, 9 penalties for 53 yards, 2 fumbles, and he was intercepted 2 times. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs really surprised me with that win over the Chargers. It was kind of a surprise. I was really impressed with how, they're 4-3, and I was really impressed how they were able to, they just got the Chargers like that. Now, even though all the experts on Inside the NFL have picked the Dolphins, I tell you, I'm staying with the Chiefs. Now, the next matchup is the San Francisco 49ers and the Washington Redskins. Now, the 49ers are just blowing everybody away this year. I think they're just the team to beat. Now, they won 20-10 over the Browns. Smith had 177 passing yards, 5 penalties for 40 yards. He was sacked 1 time, no interceptions. Frank Gore ran 125 plus yards and a touchdown in his 4th straight game. And that's 2nd in franchise history on the rushing list. So Frank Gore is really making his mark there in the 49ers. Now the Washington Redskins lost 0-23 to the Bills. Beck had 208 passing yards, 3 penalties for 54 yards, the team. He was sacked 9 times, and Beck threw 2 interceptions. No score, and a missed field goal. Redskins they're 3-4. They just lost their momentum. 49ers, there's no beating them. Now, the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. Now, the Cleveland Browns lost 10-20 to the 49ers. McCoy had 241 passing yards. They had 5 penalties for 39 yards. They had 5 fumbles where they lost only 1 of them, which was good, and he was sacked 4 times. The Browns are having a rough time. I like Colt McCoy, but, the Browns they're a young team. They're just not, not their year. They're 3-4, though. They're kind of 50-50, but they're just not doing that well. Now, the Houston Texans are 5-3. They won 24-14 over the Jaguars. Schaub had 225 passing yards. They had 7 penalties for 60 yards. They had 2 fumbles. Arian Foster rushed for 112 yards. Matt Schaub was sacked 2 times, and the Texans made 2 interceptions. So the Texans are getting a lot done, and, Texans are going to do it. I think they have much more experience, much more skill than the Browns, so that's who I'm picking. Now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints, this matchup again. Now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 4-3. They had a bye week, and in week 7 they lost 18-24 to the Bears. Freeman had 264 passing yards. They had 8 penalties for 69 yards, sacked 1 time, and they returned 2 interceptions. Now the New Orleans Saints lost 21-31 to the Rams. Can we all believe that they lost to the Rams? Breeze had 269 passing yards. He made 2 interceptions. They had 5 penalties for 32 yards, and he was sacked 6 times. Can we all believe this? But, I think the Saints, they're going to come back with a vengeance, and they're going to win. Now the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders. Now the Denver Broncos lost 10-45 to the Lions. Tebow had 172 passing yards. They had 5 penalties for 55 yards and 2 fumbles. I'm really rooting for Tim Tebow and hoping that they would do really well. Now the Oakland Raiders had a bye week. They lost in week 7, 0-28 to the Chiefs. Palmer had 116 passing yards. Bowler had 61 passing yards. They had 14 penalties for 120 yards. They had 1 sack, and there was 3 interceptions thrown. The Raiders aren't looking that good without Jason Campbell. I just think the Broncos, they're 2-5. They have Tim Tebow in there now, but I just think, they're playing in Oakland. I'm going to go with everybody on Inside the NFL, and I'm going to go with the Raiders. I hope the Broncos win, but I'm going to go with the Raiders. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Tennessee Titans. The Cincinnati Bengals won 34-12 over the Seahawks. Dalton had 168 passing yards. They had 7 penalties for 65 yards. He was sacked 1 time. Tate had a 56-yard punt return for a touchdown. Nelson had a 75-yard interception for a touchdown. So that means the offense, the defense, and the special teams all scored a touchdown, which is very rare. And now the Tennessee Titans won 27-10 over the Colts. Hasselbeck had 224 passing yards, 3 penalties for 40 yards. They made 2 interceptions, and McCourty blocked a punt in the end zone for a touchdown. So, with these 2 matchups, the Bengals are just having great luck lately, so I think the Bengals are going to win that matchup. The New York Giants and the New England Patriots. This is the game of the week. Everyone's looking forward to. Everybody. I've had 3 people today ask me my opinion on this game. Now, the New York Giants won 2017 over the Dolphins. Manning had 349 passing yards. The team had 7 penalties for 46 yards. Eli was sacked 1 time. No interceptions. They made 1 interception. The offense came through to win when the pressure was on, and the defense made 5 sacks. So, this team is just rocking on through, and they're making their wins. Now, the New England Patriots, they lost 17-25 to the Steelers. Brady had 198 passing yards, which is a season low for him in passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 37 yards, and he was sacked 3 times. Now, the Patriots are kind of losing some of their momentum there. Now, I look at it too. The Giants beat the Bills, and the Bills beat the Patriots. So, this is going to be a very close game. Now, I know the Patriots are favored going in, just like in the Super Bowl that the Giants won. And there's a lot going against the Giants, but I think the underdogs are going to take it. Of course I would. Now, the next team we're going to talk about, and mind you, my daughter is a big Patriots fan. the St. Louis Rams, and the Arizona Cardinals. Now the St. Louis Rams won 31-21 over the Saints. Feely had 175 passing yards and 9 penalties for 64 yards. He was sacked 4 times. They made 2 interceptions. Now Steven Jackson had 2 touchdowns and rushed for 159 yards. And he had the first 100 yards plus in 3 seasons. So they're doing very well. Now the Arizona, they're starting to get some things going. The Arizona Cardinals, they lost 27-30 to the Ravens. Kolb had 153 passing yards, 12 penalties for 92 yards, sacked 6 times. And they were winning 24-6 at the half, and they only had a field goal in the second half of the game. Now, with these two teams, I don't think they're both 1-6. They're both 1-6 teams. I think Arizona. I'm going to go with the Arizona winning that matchup. And now the Green Bay Packers and the San Diego Chargers. The undefeated Green Bay Packers. They had a bye week. In week 7, they won 33-27 over the Vikings. Rodgers had 335 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. They had 6 penalties for 44 yards. He was sacked 4 times. They had 1 fumble. They made 2 interceptions. There's no stopping the Green Bay Packers. Now the San Diego Chargers lost 20-23 to the Chiefs in overtime. Rivers had 369 passing yards, 12 penalties for 105 yards. They had 2 fumbles, and he was intercepted 2 times. So I think the Chargers are having some problems now. Packers are going to win. They're going to stay undefeated. Now the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Ravens won 30-27 over the Cardinals. Flacco had 336 passing yards. They had 11 penalties for 99 yards. Sacked 3 times. They were losing at the half, and they scored their points in the second half to win. And Rice had 3 touchdown runs. So They brought it back in the second half to win. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers won 25-17 over the Patriots. Ben Roethlisberger had 365 passing yards. They had 8 penalties for 50 yards, sacked 5 times, 1 interception. I think the Steelers are going to take that matchup. And the last one, Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Chicago Bears had a bye week. In week 7, they won 24-18 over the Bucks. Cutler had 226 passing yards. They had 7 penalties for 54 yards. He was sacked 2 times. They made 4 interceptions. Matt Forte had 145 rushing yards and a touchdown. Bears are doing very well. Now the Philadelphia Eagles won 34-7 over the Dallas Cowboys. Michael Vick had 179 passing yards. They had 6 penalties for 33 yards and made 1 interception. The Eagles just ran all over the Cowboys. It was crazy. Match them up together. I know the Eagles are favored to win. And, I mean, this is kind of a toss-up. The Chicago Bears are 4-3. Philadelphia Eagles are 3-4. I don't know. All of them on Inside the NFL picked the Eagles, and I don't know. My gut feeling is saying Chicago's going to pull it out. So, to wrap up what I pick, the Bills over the Jets, the Cowboys over the Seahawks. The Falcons will probably beat the Colts, even though I'm hoping for the Colts to win. The Chiefs over the Dolphins, 49ers over the Redskins, the Texans over the Browns, Saints over the Buccaneers, Raiders over the Broncos, Bengals over the Titans, the Giants over the Patriots, the Cardinals over the Rams, the Packers over the Chargers, the Steelers over the Ravens, and the Bears over the Eagles. And bye weeks for the Lions, Vikings, Panthers, and the Jaguars. So, see you next week. Enjoy your football, and have a good weekend.